Welcome back to Analytical Media. We are a consortium of therapists, college professors, and well-published peer-reviewed authors. Today we're going to be looking at Jungian quotes. It's Carl Gustav Jung, J-U-N-G. It's not pronounced Jung, it's pronounced Jung. He's very famous. He's the father of analytical psychology. Our channel is called Analytical Media. We are involved with therapies that revolve around individuation or self-actualization. And all that simply means is that the real you, who you really are, who you were meant to be, is inside, deep in your mind. It's in the unconscious. And your job in life is to make that person become real, to move from the unconscious to the conscious, from the internal world to the external world. In doing so will make you happy and give you a sense of being, well-being, and not doing so will cause depression, will cause you to be depressed and anxious and have what you think is a lousy life that causes you to cry all the time, take you away from being happy. You have a sense that there's a much better world out there. Things could be much, much better, but you can't get there. You don't know how to get there. You're very depressed. You're upset. And thus you go through a process of making the real you real to the external world. The real you that lives in the unconscious, to make that real in the conscious world. This three-dimensional reality that surrounds us, with time perhaps being the fourth dimension. So Jung's individuation is virtually identical to Maslow's self-actualization, making the self actual, real, in this three-dimensional reality. So we are specialists, if you will, all of our therapists, most members of our group otherwise, we are involved in self-actualizing, individuating therapies. So we're very, very familiar with Jung. And sad to say, that's not always the case. And those of you who know Jung, have studied him to some degree, know about him, know it well, perhaps therapists, perhaps theorists, perhaps just well-educated individuals, you will be very upset with most interpretations of Jungian quotes or examples of something that's Jungian because it has nothing to do with Jung. It is just fantasy. They may give you the page number of the quote, but they have no idea what the quote means, and they have misidentified the quote. And now, if you will, I like to start with this quote from Jung. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In other words, you have no control over it. You call it fate because you're a fatalist. This is what happened to you in life. You don't know why, and that's why it's fate. You have no idea what's going on, and thus you refer to it as fate, or luck, or karma, or it was fated. This was fated to happen. And so what he says is, until you make the conscious or the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life. And that brings up a very important point. Making the unconscious conscious. Because what is in your unconscious mind? You know, the conscious mind, that's you, the part that goes to sleep at night, wakes up, comes back to this world, perhaps to go to the bathroom at 4 in the morning. Or if not, it awakens in the morning at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And where was it? It was gone for 8 hours, 1/3 of the day. You were gone. Do you remember what happened in your room? Do you remember looking out at the stars? Do you remember anything? Well, if you were unconscious, if you were sleeping, you don't remember anything. You might remember a few things from the dream state or about a dream, But that's all you remember. Most times you remember nothing at all. You went to sleep, you looked at the clock, 11 o'clock, looked at the clock again, it was 6:45 in the morning. That's the truth. Well, you are the conscious mind, the part that laid in bed and looked at the clock at 11. You were there at 11. And then the next time, the very next instant you look at the clock, it's 6:45. All that time went by. But for you, you were there and you weren't there. Now, because you were unconscious, and you may not be aware of this, but when you have surgery, they don't give you any painkillers. They put you to sleep. They put you in the unconscious mind. And when they do that, you no longer feel pain. You don't remember pain. When you're in the recovery room from your anesthesia, still unconscious, and you begin to wake up successfully, they will give you pain medication. Now, they can't give it to you during the surgery because you don't need it. You're not there. You might as well be somebody else living in a different world, sitting on a beach. You're not connected to your body. And they don't give you pain medication because it interferes with your breathing. And that's something iffy that they want to be very careful with, that they don't interfere with your breathing. Pain medication will slow your breathing. They don't want that to happen. So you get no pain medication. But you're just groggy. And when you're groggy in the recovery room, they'll give you medication for pain. Then by the time you're fully awake, you feel very little pain. So, during the unconscious state, the persistence of the unconscious state, during the unconscious state, you have no perception of what's going on around you. And I'll give you an example of that, of sleep, ordinary sleep. You've been watching a television show, and it was pretty good. Somebody killed somebody. The detective is trying to figure it out, and he's gone this way and that way, and you've watched it all. And it's 10 minutes to 11. This is the final commercial. The killer will be revealed to you sometime from, say, 7 minutes to 11 o'clock when the program's over. You know that. That's how it works. The commercial, it's the last commercial before they reveal the killer. The last commercial for the program. It's 10 to 11. You've watched this faithfully, and then you're waiting for the commercial to be over, another minute or two. You know, maybe when it's 8 minutes to 11, 7 minutes to 11, you can see the clock. And then you're waiting, and then, boom, you look at the clock. It's 20 minutes after 11, and they're giving you the weather. You were asleep for 20-some minutes. Now, you know your sister always watches that program because you don't know who the killer was, and you want to know. And you don't know who the killer was, no matter what. If somebody broke into your house and put a gun to your head and said, "Tell me who the killer was, or we're going to blow your brains out," then you'd have to say, "Shoot me, because I don't know who the killer was. Believe me, I swear to you, I don't," and you don't. If we hooked you up to a lie detector, you don't know. Why? Because you were no longer conscious in this world. You were sleeping in another world. Now, you call your sister up, and you say, "Who was the killer?" And she says, "I don't know. I didn't watch it today." You call a friend up who always watches it, and you say, "Who was the killer?" And she says, "I was asleep. I fell asleep." You say, "Me too." So we'll hope we can see this in a rerun sometime or stream it, because we don't know who the killer was, and you don't, and you know certainly you've experienced this. So the idea is, what happened in the unconscious, you have no idea. And what is in your unconscious, and this is what Jung means, until you make the unconscious conscious, what is in the unconscious, you don't know. You only know, you don't know what's in the unconscious. You only know what used to be in the unconscious. Maybe with hypnosis, we can bring out some of what used to be in the unconscious. Maybe with some directed imagery, we might bring out some. But we don't know, we know what used to be there. If you're driving down a road and suddenly you see a house and you say, oh my God, I dreamt about that house and this and that. It was at that moment that you knew what had been in the unconscious. It's no longer in the unconscious, it's conscious. But whatever else is in the unconscious that is not yet conscious, you don't know. You have no idea what's down there. I used to give this example in school. It's like you are fishing in a deep lake. You're fishing, you throw the line in, you get a bite, you pull the fishing line out, you reel it in, and you see that it's a bluegill, a pretty fish with some blue-green colors. Now, the next time you get a bite, you don't know what the fish is. We know there used to be a bluegill in that water, but you might have caught the last one. The next fish might be a shark. It might be a tuna. We don't know. We only know what used to be there. When you reel it in, it came from the unconscious, used to be there, but we don't know what else is there until we pull it out of the unconscious. So what he says is, until you make the unconscious conscious, until you pull something out of the unconscious into the conscious, you don't know what's going on and what's happening. And he says that until you make the unconscious conscious, until you can figure it out, you can pull it out, you don't know what it is, you don't know what it's doing, you know what impact it has. It will direct your life. And what he means is you're going to be following this thing from the unconscious. You don't know what it's doing down there. You don't know what purpose it has. You're unaware of it. And as such, it will still impact your life. Your unconscious will impact you, the conscious mind. And he says, and you will call it fate. In other words, you'll have no idea what's operating in your life because it's coming from the unconscious. And so you will assume that it is luck or fate or destiny or karma, because you don't know what's causing this. You're just saying, well, whatever happened must have happened for a reason. What is that reason? I don't really know, but I'm going to call it fate. That's how important the unconscious was to Jung. And I'll cover one more thing just because we've talked this much about Jung today. So what did we learn from what we said earlier? We learned that the unconscious is vast. It's huge. It has an impact on your life. You don't even know it's there. You don't know what it is. You don't know why it's doing what it's doing. You don't even know it's there. And so you can't say, well, that's due to early childhood development and a memory I had when I was 7 years old. You don't say that because you don't know what it is. And so you say, well, maybe I did that because I just like doing those things. It's fate. It was supposed to happen. You have no idea why it happened. You don't control it. It controls you. So that's the importance of this relationship between this unknown, guiding, directing, powerful, immensely powerful thing called the unconscious and you, the very weak, small, conscious mind. They don't have a conflicting purpose. It's not that you have an antagonistic relationship with your unconscious. That's not it at all. The unconscious tries to help you constantly. It's just you can't do too much, you can't take too much. A great deal of growth must occur. So that's the power of the unconscious. Now, we're going to talk about personality shortly for a short time. And he says, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And what he is saying is, we dislike the most about others that which we dislike the most about ourselves, even though we may not know we dislike this about ourselves. But we do know we dislike it about other people. Boy, it really irritates us when this person won't shut up, or when this person, whatever it is that irritates us about them, is probably something that irritates us about ourselves. but we don't recognize it as such because that's in the unconscious. So the clue, the shadow of this thing in the unconscious is the fact that we, for no reason in particular, dislike an individual because they do this or that. Or we dislike, again for no good reason, things that this individual does. Or perhaps, if it's enough, we dislike the individual entirely. And that's what Jung means. That if we can recognize that something about another person irritates us, it would be a good clue to the fact that really it's something we dislike about them because we dislike that about ourselves. It's important for you to put that all together, to pay attention to it. It's a great insight from a great mind. And the very last thing we're going to cover today, which would make a total of 3 Jungian quotes, and we're going over them because they are foundational in Jungian theory, in analytical theory. The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemicals. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. So what he's saying is, if 2 people connect, both people are more than they were before. They have changed. One person has created a chemical reaction which causes a change in both people. Their meeting did something. It transformed both individuals if they connected. He says, if there is any reaction, you and the other individual, any reaction, whether it's a dislike, a like, a deeper understanding of something, more interest in something, both individuals are transformed. It's just like a chemical reaction. You mix some baking soda with some vinegar, a base with an acid, and there's going to be a reaction. The base will become less base, and the acid will become less acidic. It will be transformed, they'll change, because they've interacted. Now, you might make sense of this when it's chemicals. It might make sense to you. But when it's not chemicals and 2 personalities aren't really merging, there's no chemical touching, but personalities are not at all physical. Personalities are abstract. Personalities are non-physical, but yet they react to each other and they transform each other. It makes sense. Think about it. It makes sense. Have any deeper questions, any deeper understanding you would like in this subject? Let us know. We will cover many more Jungian quotes. We literally have thousands to cover. This is Analytical Media. We are attempting to help people in what we do. I hope you can see that. You can help us and you can help other people by subscribing or liking or sharing, because that will be noted by the algorithm of YouTube and they will push these videos out to more people. So if you want to help people, subscribe, like, comment, etc. We sincerely hope for our followers, for the people who are actively paying attention to this, we hope that this has been of value to you. That's why we're doing it. Maybe for some people it will help you understand your personality better, understand your child, or bring you more enlightenment, bring you closer to happiness, to a meaningful existence, to make you less anxious, less depressed. Those are all things we hope is occurring. If it is, we've succeeded. If not, we'll try harder. Take care. We'll see you in the next video.